Week one of college football is here. It's going to be an exciting week. There are plenty of games, and we're going to start with Thursday night. As a Thursday night preview, we'll take a look at our predictions for some of these games, and as well as take a look at some bets that we might make. Boise State and USF are going to get us started. Now, Boise State is looking to get back to the college football playoff. They are looking for a big run without Ashton Jeanty. That's going to be a big key for them is how do they run the football? That's going to be one thing to pay attention to if you're a Boise State fan. You've seen this team compete at the highest level, and you're hoping that that happens again. This is a team that went 12-2 last year, and largely because of Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty did a number of great things for this offense, and he's gone. The nice thing, though, is that this offense does have the talent and the depth at that position to make another run, to make things really exciting once again. And this is going to be a really different offense than it was even with that depth. Now, Maddox Madsen is going to be a big part of that. Over 3,000 yards thrown last year, 23 touchdowns. They might rely on him a little bit more, and with a big road game right off the bat, he is going to have to be poised and in control of this offense. This is an offense that has a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. You're just looking for somebody to step up. Is that Chris Marshall? Is he finally going to break through and have the season that a lot of people expect him to? Is it going to be Latrell Caples, a guy that was proven last year? There are plenty of questions in the passing attack, but you do have certain guys returning that could make things a lot easier. Matt Lauder is going to be another guy. He's a tight end that is one of the best in the country. He is going to be a reliable player when you need to make a play. He proved that he could do it last year. He's going to do it again in 2025, and Maddox Madsen just has to figure out how to get him the football. The defense does have to slow down USF's offense. This is a unique offense that's going to be spread out, and this group has to find a way to slow them down, plain and simple. Guys like Jaden Virgin Morgan, Braxton Felly, those are guys that will have to step up and make sure that this is an offense that doesn't find its footing, because they do have a healthy quarterback returning, and that's going to help them. Boise State, though, is a team that I think is in a good position. Spencer Danielson has done a number of good things for this program, providing that stability and then taking them to levels that maybe they didn't expect to hit last year. Part of that had to do with Jeanty, but also part of that is Spencer Danielson and what he has done for this program. Flipping over to the USF side of things, Byron Brown is back to full health. Now, we don't have Bryce Archie backing him up, so he does have to stay healthy. The drop off from him to Archie was obviously noticeable, but now the drop off between him and the next guy is going to be even greater. Byron Brown, though, when healthy, is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Has the ability to make some big plays with his arm. Also a proven runner with his legs as well. Last year, obviously, injuries played a role in his struggles. Only had 836 yards passing, 269 yards rushing, had a total of 5 touchdowns. You're looking to get him back on track, and if he's fully healthy, he provides a lot of matchup issues for Boise State to be able to slow this offense down. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that this is a team that's going through a tough first 3-game stretch. When you look at who USF has to play, you first have to go against Boise State. And I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking that as a challenge, but this is a team that is very difficult. It may not be the other two teams, but Boise State is a playoff team that deserves its respect. The other thing you have to keep an eye on is they do go to Florida and to Miami after that. So you're going to have plenty of struggles early on. And this is the most winnable game of the 3. If they're able to win that, you just have to find a way to navigate the tough games ahead and find a way to still keep your confidence. Even if you go 0-3, you have to find a way to keep your confidence, because this is a team that can make plays, that can be successful. A 7-6 season last year was disappointing, but this year they could have quite a bit of talent that can make things better. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to have to be physical. This is a Boise State team that still wants to run the ball. They still want to make plays on the ground, and that's where your linebackers come in. You have a number of talented linebackers. Jalen Schuler is one of those guys that should be able to step up. 61 tackles for him last year, 7 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. He has the ability to make plays, and USF probably needs him to, because this is going to be 2 different styles of play. This is a Boise State offense that wants to be physical, that wants to run the football, and while USF also wants to run it, That's a USF team that wants to spread out Boise State and make life difficult, put this defense in our inopportune matchups and find ways to exploit those mismatches. There are plenty of things that both sides can do to make that happen, and it's going to be interesting to see which team actually prevails in those endeavors. The quarterbacks are going to play a big role in that. Maddox Madsen, obviously, we know his limitations with his arm, but he's also a good decision maker. He's also a confident playmaker when he's in a rhythm. You have a new offensive coordinator for Boise State, and USF is going to have to find ways to make him uncomfortable. Same thing with Byron Brown. He is back from injury. He's going to have to get back into the rhythm of things. He is going to have to show that, hey, I'm still capable of making these types of throws. I'm still capable of making big plays with my arm, with my legs, and that's going to put Boise State in a tough position. If they're not able to do that, it could be for a long night. Now, when you look at this game, it started at 9.5 as the line. It's currently at 5.5. I would, if you were able to get it at 9.5 for USF, I would have done that. I think this is going to be a close game. There are questions on both sides of the ball. Boise State is the favorite, obviously, for a reason, but the line has chipped down to 5.5. Boise State is a good team, but USF, I think a lot of people are high on them, and people are definitely betting the Bulls, and that's why it's down to 5.5. I think Boise State still wins, but I do think that's a close matchup. I think that these two teams are pretty evenly matched. And also, it's week one. We've seen some crazy things. We watched Iowa State give Kansas State all they could and then some, and that was really fun. And this one will also be fun. It's a game that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. I wish it wasn't at 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern. I wish it was more of a night game, but it is what it is. Still going to be a fun game, still going to be one to pay attention to, and it has big implications on the Group of 5 race for the college football playoff. Ohio travels to Rutgers. The line right now is set at 15. Now, this is going to be an interesting game to watch because Ohio is going through yet another coaching change. And they do have their quarterback back, but they lost quite a bit of talent. Parker Navarro's return is huge for Ohio. Having him back is going to give them a lot of stability on that offense, especially with some of the players that they have to figure out. They have a kind of familiar returning starter in Sia Bangura. He's back. He's someone that's going to help Navarro, but Navarro truly is the go-to guy, the central piece of this offense. Last year had a big year for the Bobcats. Over 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. He also ran for over 1,000 yards and 18 more scores. They might rely on him to do even more than he did last year. You'd like to see him take away some of those turnovers. That's going to help the Bobcats if they want to get back to the top of the MAC. But Parker Navarro is going to be so much fun. If you have not watched him play, I highly recommend it. Maybe not in this game, but maybe in a game that he has a little bit more success than he will in this one. It's going to be tough. There's plenty of transition, and this new coaching staff kind of has their hands full right now. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of potential talent that they must replace, and they have guys that are stepping in for the first time in a big way. Another guy to keep an eye on the defensive side of the ball, DJ Walker. 53 tackles for him, 7 tackles for loss. He is someone that is going to have to get guys around him to step up. He's kind of the Navarro of this defense, and this is a team that lost a ton of talent from an 11-3 team in 2024. That's not going to be easy. Brian Smith's first game as a head coach is going to be challenging. There are questions about his ability to be a head coach and questions about his ability to retain talent, to get new talent to play, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. We just don't know what he's capable of doing. That's going to be a tough challenge right off the bat. Playing a team like Rutgers isn't going to be easy either. The line's 15. If they're able to compete and come together early, you're feeling like they have a pretty good chance of making things happen. If not, this could be a long game because Rutgers is a team that I think a lot of people are not super sold on yet, but there's plenty of talent coming back for this team. A team that went 7-6 last year, and obviously a lot of that is going to hinge on the play of Ethan Kaliakmanis. That is a guy who has to play better if Rutgers wants to have more success. Now, fortunately for him, he has plenty of skill position talent around him. A guy to keep an eye on, Antoine Raymond. The running back ran for 457 yards last year and 8 touchdowns. A super young player that is ready to have a breakout season. And also, this is a Rutgers team that has plenty of depth at the running back position. So not just Antoine Raymond, there are other guys that will be able to play. There are other guys that are going to make life easier. But it truly is just going to come down to Kaliak Manis and his accuracy. Last year, we saw some plays where you thought really good things about him. You saw the arm talent, but there were also times where some of his throws were not great. You need to find a way to get him in position to be successful, to feel confident in his throws, and from there, it's just a matter of what can the defense do to support you. Now, this is a defense that is bringing in quite a bit of transfer talent. Same thing with the offense, too. But this is a defense that you bring in a guy like Eric O'Neill. I thought that was one of the better additions in the transfer portal this year. Last year for James Madison, 52 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 13 sacks. That's going to be huge for this defense. They need some replace some talent, and bringing in a guy like O'Neill is going to do that. That's going to be huge, and it's going to help them stop an Ohio offense that, as of right now, a lot of people probably think is just a one-man show. Next, we'll go to ECU at NC State. This is one that you saw them play in the bowl game last year, and now you're getting a first game matchup between these two, and there's no love lost between these two. It's going to be a physical game. It's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be a fun game. This line is currently set at NC State at -14. I don't know if the books just have more confidence in the Wolfpack right now, but this is an ECU team that is going to love that. They're going to love the role as the underdog, and they are going to want to build up into being an underdog that's going to pull off the upset. And we saw it last year in the bowl game. That was a team that was very motivated. Now, this is a Pirates team that is going into a new era. You have Blake Harrell's first full season as the full-time head coach, and we are going to get to see if he's truly the real deal. We saw last year he coached a number of games and did a lot of good things for that program. Now it's his first year as the full-time head coach, and I think it's going to be fun. I think this is a group that's extremely talented, has plenty of players coming back that are going to make an impact. One of those guys is going to be Caden Hauser. Last year threw for over 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. You'd like to see him reduce those 11 interceptions, but I do like what he brings back to this offense. He brings some stability. He brings some big playability, and that's going to be extremely helpful, especially with the talent they have coming back at receiver. Anthony Smith, Yannick Smith, you also bring in Jaquez Petaway from Oklahoma. That's a passing attack that could be one of the better passing attacks in the AAC, or as they call it now, the American. This is a team that has a ton of confidence, and they know they can beat NC State because they did it last year. Now, these are different teams now, but that's what they're going to hold their hat on is that, hey, we did it last year. Why can't we do it again in 2025? I think that that's definitely a possibility. The one thing I will say is that really for both teams, you have to keep your composure. You just cannot have what happened last year. You cannot have the personal fouls. You cannot have the penalties. Now, maybe the weather played a little bit into the sloppiness, but overall, it wasn't a great game in terms of execution. Now it's going to be the first week. You're going to have execution problems. You're going to have some struggles early on, and that's going to present some challenges that maybe you're not ready for, but ECU has to be the more composed team if they're going to win this one. I think that they can do that. You have guys like Caden Hauser that'll make that happen. Raheem Craig on the defensive side of the ball is a name to keep an eye on. He's someone who has the ability to make big plays, and he'll need to be disruptive if they want to slow down this NC State offense. For NC State, everybody's watching CJ Bailey. CJ Bailey holds the key to this team's success. Last year they went 6-7. If they want to be better, he has to take a step. Completed nearly 65% of his passes, threw for over 2,400 yards and 17 touchdowns. He has to be a better passer, a better decision maker, and he has to limit his turnovers. We go back to that composure. Dave Doran needs a bounce back season, and he needs his quarterback to play well. He needs his quarterback to play like he's not a young player who's inexperienced. He needs him to play like a veteran, and that should be relatively easy. I think there's a good amount of talent coming back for him to make plays. You have Hollywood Smothers coming back at the running back position. You also have a number of talented and experienced players catching passes. You bring back Noah Rogers. You bring back Wesley Grimes. You have a guy in Justin Jolie that's going to be a great tight end for you. So there's plenty of talent for CJ Bailey to be more successful in 2025. It's just going to come down to his decision making. It's going to come down to his ability to distribute the football all over the field. And I think that he has the tools to do that. He just needs to rely on his consistent playmaking, really focus on what he's doing. And I think the rest will kind of sort itself out. Jacksonville State at UCF. Both are going through a coaching change. Both are going through a different time in their program's history, and for different reasons. Charles Kelly takes over as a first-time head coach at Jacksonville State. It's his first game as a head coach, and he is someone that has a lot to prove. I think a lot of people would have been more excited about his arrival maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but still, he got his opportunity. He knows what he's doing on defense, and this is a Jacksonville State team that is going to have to replace quite a bit of talent. We see that Gavin Wimsatt is taking over as the starting quarterback for this team, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of offense they run around him. It's probably going to be more run first. They're going to use his legs quite a bit. How do you get him more comfortable as a passer? Because at Kentucky last year, just didn't work out. He did not have a lot of success throwing the football. You have to find ways to put him in position to do that. Juwan Campbell on the defensive side of the ball is going to have his hands full. Both sides of the ball are retooling. They're going to have to find ways to get players to step up and play at a higher level that maybe they're not ready for yet. But this is a team that will still be interesting to watch. It just might take them some time to get things going. The line is 18.5 in favor of UCF. That is not ideal if you're Jacksonville State, but it should give you an opportunity to kind of exceed expectations. UCF is welcoming back Scott Frost. The Scott Frost era is back, and it's going to be interesting to see, is this truly a team that can get back to what it was? Can Scott Frost still be a good head coach, and can he do it in the Big 12? Playing against Jacksonville State is obviously going to give you a chance to build some momentum, build some confidence, but ultimately it's going to be a tough one in terms of who's going to be your reliable playmakers. Now, Cam Fancher is listed as the starting quarterback, but don't count out Ja'Cory Brown or Taven Jackson. Cam Fancher did not really impress me at FAU, and maybe he is the best fit for this offense, but I don't believe that anything is set in stone yet, even though Cam Fancher is listed as QB1. He is going to have to prove himself still. There's plenty of talent behind him that will get things in terms of building competition, getting things ramped up. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, but the offense really needs the quarterback position to play well if they're going to have success. The defense should be the better part of this team. Nigel Kelly is back, and he had a good year for the Knights in what was a pretty poor season at 4-8. 53 tackles for him, 10 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. That's going to be a guy that needs to play really well, and he'll have plenty of help around him as well, which makes things a lot easier if you're UCF or someone that is going to step in for the first time if they do have that. This is a rebuild, though, for UCF. This is a rebuilding era for them, and they're going to have to find ways to bounce back. Frost has to find the right talent, and it might take them some time to get back on track. Frost has to prove that he can be a head coach. His time at Nebraska wasn't great, but at the same time, there was a lot of exciting things that happened when he was at UCF initially. So you have to prove that you can get back to that. Doing so is going to be more difficult because you're playing in the Big 12 versus the American. Wyoming at Akron, and this is an interesting one. Wyoming is a 7.5-point favorite, and Akron really doesn't have a postseason to play for. That being said, there's a lot of talk about this team potentially making a bowl game, and that seems very strange with what Akron has been in the past. This is a team that's been a bottom dweller in the MAC. Now, Kent State has pushed them for that and actually removed them from that bottom spot, but Akron's still a team under Joe Moorhead that needs to do better. Moorhead needs to win games. It's year 4 for him, and it's not gone well. He needs to find a way to keep his job. This is going to be a tough year for them. You're not playing for a bowl game, so even if you do win 6 games, it doesn't matter. Now, it's going to be something they can rally around, and that's going to be a big question. Can you rally around a season where to a lot of people will say you don't have anything to play for. You don't have anything that's going to help you, and that's going to be tough. I think that's going to be a challenging thing for this team to overcome, and finding ways to work around that resiliency or that adversity, show your resiliency, is going to be a big thing. Now, Ben Finley could be a guy that was good last year, but everybody else is going to have to prove themselves, including the quarterback position. This is a group that has a lot that they need to fix, and even the returning starters are going to have to show that they can be better than they were last year. They're going against a Wyoming team that I think will be much better than they were in 2024. A 3-9 season under Jay Sawvell, not what they wanted, not how they wanted the season to go, but they do have some nice returning pieces. John Michael Gillenborg is going to be a guy that a lot of people talk about in the NFL draft. He is a tight end that has good pass catching ability, and that's going to help Caden Anderson. Gillenborg, 30 catches for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. Anderson played limited reps, but 955 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The passing attack has to be better, simply because the defense is kind of going through a little bit of a retooling, a rebuild, if you will. That's going to take some time for this team to get through, and it's going to need the offense to kind of carry the team for the time being. I think the offense will be much better than it was last year. I think that they will provide a lot of interesting options on the defensive side of the ball, but we'll see if that truly plays out that way. Buffalo at Minnesota. This is going to be a fun one. I think it's a super underrated matchup for week 1, and a lot of people aren't talking about either of these teams. Buffalo is a team that I think can win the MAC this year. Minnesota is a team that I think will surprise people in the Big Ten. Now, Buffalo is going to have their hands full trying to stop this Minnesota offense and their defense, but this is a Buffalo team that is a lot better than I think a lot of people realize. Aljay Henderson is one of the better running backs in college football that nobody's talking about. 1,078 yards last year and 9 touchdowns for a team that went 9-4 in Pete Lembo's first year. We're entering year 2. They're ready to make a title run. They did not waste any time getting to where they wanted to be, and now they're set for a really fun season. Now, Red Murdoch comes back on the defensive side of the ball. The defense should be really good. You have Murdoch coming back, Deion Crawford, Kobe Stewart. You have guys that are going to make plays for this defense, and the offense should be kind of in good hands as well. The question is going to be, is Taquan Roberson ready for the challenge? Is he ready to take over this offense? I think he's a good fit, and I think that he'll be really fun. It's just that you might get off to kind of a tough start. Playing against Minnesota is going to be challenging. And this is a Minnesota team that, again, a lot of people are sleeping on. A lot of people do not expect them to be very good this year. I think a lot of people are just underrating them, and they do it every year. That's the hard part. They do it every season, and for whatever reason, that just keeps happening. This is a team that went 8-5, and I don't think a lot of people expected them to go 8-5. Now, the biggest question for them is, what does Drake Lindsey look like at quarterback? Is he capable of taking this team to where they want to go? Are they capable of winning games at a level that he can do? Can he bring them to that level? He's a big body quarterback. He has a good frame, and he has some new faces that he's going to have to hit downfield. He has plenty of talent, though. There's plenty of talent for him to get the ball out there. He has the arm talent to do it. It's just going to be, who are those guys catching the ball? They bring in some interesting talented players in Javon Tracy from Miami, Ohio, Logan Loya from UCLA. You have guys that can do it. It's just, you're in a new system. You're in a new offense. Can you get open for a quarterback that definitely needs to? It's a young quarterback who is taking over an offense for the first time. There are going to be some natural jitters. 17.5 might be too big of a line for Minnesota, but they've also shown in the past that they can blow teams out right off the bat. So Drake Lindsey is going to have to show that he can do that. If anything, though, there's a good rushing attack behind him or next to him that will make his life a lot easier. Darius Taylor is one of the best running backs in college football, and he's set to have a monster season. He is going to have a big year because Minnesota really wants him to run the football well. They have an offensive line that should be really talented and able to do that. You also bring in A.J. Turner from the transfer portal from Marshall. You have him coming into the offense. They feel really good about that. You have a veteran in Cam Davis coming in from Washington. There's a good amount of depth at the running back position, and you're feeling really good about what this team can do because of that. You're still going to be able to run the football. Drake Lindsey, as long as he feels comfortable and they have some good balance, this offense should have a ton of success this year, and that's where things get really interesting if you're Minnesota. Then you could potentially see a guy like Coy Parrish. Is he going to play both ways? Do we actually see that? We've seen this in the past. Caleb Downs at Ohio State, we talk about him. They used him as a running back, but then they didn't play him in a game at that position. Coy Parrish has been playing at wide receiver. The big question is, are they going to use him at wide receiver? I don't know if he's going to be full-time. I would doubt that, but it would be fun if he is. I hope that I'm wrong with that because he could be so much fun. He has so much talent. And he is a guy that's going to be really fun to watch if he truly does play both ways. If anything, they might use him in some different packages and line him up just to give teams something to think about. That's going to be something to pay attention to. If anything, though, he's going to play on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to be part of a good secondary, and that's going to help Danny Collins, who's taking over as a first-time coordinator. He's going to have plenty of talent, but he does have some new faces that have to step up. You have guys like Anthony Smith coming back on the defensive line, but there's some depth that needs to be sorted out. You have certain players like Jackson Howard opposite of him that could play a big role, but you have overall some inexperience that needs to emerge and show that they can be a reliable player. The linebacker position appears to be set. Maverick Baranowski, Devin Williams, Jeff Roberson, those are guys that are going to make a big impact. And then the secondary, like we talked about, Kerry Brown, Aiden Gooseby, Coy Parrish, you have guys that are proven commodities that know how to get the ball back to your offense. That's also going to help your young quarterback if he's having some struggles early in the season. Nebraska and Cincinnati. The line right now is Nebraska -7, and this is a team that is looking at that year 3 jump under Matt Rule. A lot of people are talking about that. Do they have the ability to take a leap in Matt Rule's 3rd season with the program? A lot of that hinges on the offense, and Dylan Raiola has to have a good year for this to happen. The schedule allows them to win games, but you have to have your quarterback playing better. Now, Raiola is under Dana Holgorsen now. Dana Holgorsen took over last year as the offensive coordinator, and they need his offense to produce explosive plays. They need his offense to make things happen for their young quarterback. Now, Raiola has been super hyped up when he came into Nebraska. Last year had his moments, but also definitely had his moments as a young player that needs to improve. Over 2,800 yards and 13 touchdowns, but he did throw 11 picks. Now, the one thing you can point to is that under Holgorsen, he looked a lot more comfortable than he did under Marcus Satterfield. That is something that Nebraska fans are really excited about, and they expect big things from him because of that. And Holgorsen's great. I think that he is a guy who loves the game. He loves calling offenses. He loves dialing up plays, and that's going to help this team tremendously. They're going to find ways to get Raiola and his playmakers in positions to be successful, and that's going to be a big thing to pay attention to. The other thing is the defense has to replace quite a bit of talent up front. That's going to be a big question. The linebackers and Javen Wright might have to do a little bit more than they did last year, but again, there's plenty of talent to make that happen. They're facing a Cincinnati team that isn't going to apologize for their lack of preparedness if that happens, or any struggles that Nebraska might see early on. This is a Cincinnati team that went 5-7 last year, and they want to get back to a bowl game. They want to get back on the right track, and Scott Satterfield needs that to happen. Brendan Sorsby is going to be a big key for this team. 2,800 yards last year, 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He could have an even better year. This is a team that could surprise people in the Big 12 if everything goes to plan. They need a bounce back season. If Sorsby is better as a passer and even can do some things with his legs, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Nebraska early on, because I don't think a lot of people expect Cincinnati to win. I don't think a lot of people expect this team to have a ton of success, and that puts them in a good position to kind of surprise people. They could have a year in which they exceed expectations. Brendan Sorsby has the talent to win some big games. We just need to see it consistently. And that kind of fits to both quarterbacks too. The defense is going to have some new faces as well. You do have some familiar faces, though, that will help them get on track. The linebackers are set. The guy to pay attention to is Dante Corleone. Now, hopefully, fully back healthy and at 100%, he is a guy that is a game changer on defense, a game changer on the defensive line, and someone who is very capable of making big plays and getting his guys extra help, opening things up for the guys behind him. Again, those linebackers are set. The secondary might need some time, but a guy like Dante Corleone can help both those levels with his play. And even though Nebraska has a good offensive line that's experienced and talented, they're going to have a tough time keeping him in check. They are going to have a tough time keeping him in away from the plays and out of the backfield. That's going to require probably some double teams. You might even have to triple team him at times. He has the talent to be a really good player, and he could be a first round pick. It's just that his health in the past is maybe going to limit how high he rises, but that's a guy who has the ability to make plays and really do a lot of good things for this team. I do think that Nebraska wins this game. I do think that they're the talented team. I'm really high in Nebraska this year, and I know that's something we say in the past, but I think they have all the right pieces. They did really good in the transfer portal. They have the right guy calling plays on offense, and they have the right quarterback that should be able to thrive in this game. That's going to be something that is a formula for success. And again, this is a team that under Matt Rule expects to take that year 3 jump. And I know people kind of roll their eyes when they hear that, but when you look at what he did at Baylor, you look at what he did at Temple, there's a reason why he's done it at both places. And Nebraska is not going to be any different. The schedule lines up for that. The talent he has coming back makes it possible. And it's just a matter of the team executing. That's plain and simple what it's going to come down to. And this is a team that definitely has the ability to do that. The final big game we'll talk about for Thursday night, Miami, Ohio at Wisconsin. Wisconsin needs this game to go well. They have a tough schedule. Luke Fickell needs to save his job, and they have a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. Billy Edwards, I think a lot of pressure is on him to have success. Jeff Grimes has to do better as a play caller. Maybe he fits better into what Wisconsin wants to do offensively, but you have to find ways to get your quarterback in position to play. Miami, Ohio, probably not winning this game, plain and simple. That being said, DeQuan Finn is going to be a really fun player to watch. I think that he has plenty of talent to make plays with his arm and with his legs. He's back in the MAC. He was the former Toledo quarterback. He was a former MAC star, and goes to Baylor. Didn't really work out. Injuries played a little bit of a role there, and he is someone that, if healthy, can be a game changer at the position. That's going to be fun to watch. That's something to keep an eye on. And truly, it's going to be a quarterback position that will look different for Miami, Ohio than it has in the past. Those are going to be the big ones for Thursday. Other games to pay attention to: Bowling Green, first game under Eddie George and that new coaching staff. That will be something to keep an eye on as they host Lafayette. Delaware, first time being in the FBS. They play Delaware State, a team they're very familiar with. ULM and St. Francis. ULM has to be better if they want to get back to a bowl game. They also have to make sure that they kind of separate themselves from that previous regime where you're losing to a team like St. Francis. St. Francis has upset some FBS teams in the past. You have to avoid that. Missouri and their 2 quarterbacks take on Central Arkansas. Duke brings in Darian Mensah. They play Elon again. They beat them 26-3 last year. They're hoping that margin of victory is even more. Oklahoma State is playing UT Martin. What does that offense look like? What does that team look like under Mike Gundy? That's going to be a big thing as well. And then Houston, hoping to have a bounce back year under Willie Frisk, is hosting Stephen F. Austin. Those are going to be the games to pay attention to. We'll look at some bets. Last week, we had a decent week of bets. The UNLV Idaho State total goes over 62.5. Kansas State doesn't win at -3. Hawaii at -2.5. If I'm looking at this week or this Thursday slate of games, I like ECU +13 when I had it. That's what I put it in as. If you get 14, which you have right now, that's going to be part of it, and that'll be interesting. I think Minnesota gets off to a slow start. You have a new quarterback, some unproven players at wide receiver, and some new players coming in as well. I think the first half total under 23.5 is going to be a safe bet. Buffalo is not going to be an extremely explosive team against this offense, but I don't think Minnesota gets off to that hot start. USF, I got it at +9.5. If you like it still at +5.5, absolutely go for it. And then one run I want to throw in here, Akron, the money line, +225. Akron is a team that I think could surprise people just because most people are counting them out. That is kind of a little bit of a reach, but it is something that I could see happening. Why not throw it in there as well? We'll see how the bets go. Kind of early on, we're figuring out what teams actually are, and that's an interesting one to pay attention to for sure. But Week 1 is here. Thursday is going to be so much fun. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win, what bets you like, what you don't, and we'll see you in the next video.